I'm Rachel Morgan, 33 years old, and I walked up to my parents' front porch with a birthday gift bag in my hand, hopeful like always. I'd picked up a lottery ticket on a whim, tucked it inside a card, and added some chocolates I knew my mom liked. It was supposed to be lighthearted, a small gesture, something thoughtful. I rang the doorbell right on time, thinking maybe this year would feel different. But I didn't know that just an hour earlier, my parents had handed my sister the keys to a $750,000 house, and not one of them had even remembered it was my birthday. Before I go any further, drop a comment and let me know where you're tuning in from, and hit that subscribe button if you've ever felt like the invisible one in your own family. I grew up in a modest 2-story house in a quiet neighborhood outside Trenton, New Jersey. Nothing fancy but clean and cared for. My dad trimmed the hedges every Sunday morning, and my mom kept photo albums that lined our hallway shelves. Flip through those pages and you'd see the pattern clear as day. My younger sister Lauren front and center in every frame. Lauren was 4 years younger, full of energy, always laughing, always surrounded by people. I was the quiet one. Straight A's, perfect attendance, the kind of kid who color-coded her school folders. But no matter what I did, it was never quite enough. Rachel, why don't you smile more like Lauren, my mom would say when I preferred books over birthday parties. She just has a spark. That spark seemed to excuse everything. While I got a job shelving books at the library when I was 16, Lauren breezed through high school without ever working a shift. When I made National Honor Society, my parents said, "That's nice, honey." When Lauren brought home a C- in math, they took her out for ice cream to celebrate. She didn't fail. I never threw a fit about it. I didn't want to be difficult. I went to college on a scholarship, earned my degree in education, and started teaching 3rd grade at a small elementary school not far from where I grew up. It wasn't a high-paying job, but it was honest work. My apartment was tiny, but it was mine. Rent, paid bills, handled everything I earned. Meanwhile, Lauren drifted from one creative passion to another. Photography, jewelry design, home staging. Each hobby came with thousands of dollars in supplies paid for by Mom and Dad. And when nothing stuck, they just called her a free spirit. I kept showing up. Birthdays, anniversaries, Sunday check-in calls. I remembered every holiday. I was the one who offered to help with errands, who sent cards in the mail, just because. It felt like if I kept showing up, eventually they'd see me. But I guess some things don't change. The spring before my birthday, I got word that budget cuts were coming to the school. As one of the newer hires, my position was at risk. The principal said they'd try to keep me, but I knew better than to count on promises. I was careful with money, but if I lost that paycheck, I'd be in real trouble. I didn't tell my parents I don't think I could have handled the polite indifference. Every Friday, just for a little joy, I'd buy a single lottery ticket. It was never about winning. Just a moment to imagine a different life. One where I could start a scholarship fund or build something that actually mattered. The day before my birthday dinner, I picked up my usual ticket and then, just for fun, grabbed an extra one. I thought maybe my parents would get a kick out of dreaming along with me. I wrote, "Thanks for everything" inside a card, slipped in the ticket and chocolates, and packed it all in a neat little bag. When I stepped inside their house the next evening, it smelled like rosemary and garlic. My mom was making her roast chicken, something she only cooked for holidays or special occasions. For a second, my heart lifted. Maybe they remembered after all. I called out a greeting, set the bag down on the hallway table, and made my way into the kitchen. My mom was stirring a pot with one hand and scrolling her phone with the other. My dad barely looked up from his screen. No hug, no smile, no happy birthday. I stood there in the doorway, unsure of what to say next. Then my mom glanced up just once and said Lauren should be here any minute. That's when I knew. The evening wasn't about me. It never had been. And what happened when Lauren finally walked through that door? Well, that's when everything really shifted. Lauren showed up 10 minutes late like always. The front door flew open, and her voice echoed down the hallway, bright, loud, full of herself. "I'm here. Sorry I'm late." She walked into the kitchen without pausing, a gust of perfume and bracelets trailing behind her. Her hair was done up like she'd come from a photo shoot, and everything she wore looked brand new. She didn't glance in my direction, just went straight to our parents, wrapping them in hugs like she hadn't just missed dinner. "I have the most amazing news," she said, practically bouncing in her heels. "Let's wait till we're sitting down," my mom said, barely containing her grin. We moved into the dining room. The table was already set, good china cloth napkins, crystal wine glasses. My mom brought out the roast chicken. My dad poured the wine. Through all of it, no one said a word about my birthday, not even in passing. I told myself it didn't matter. I was 33, not a child. But that voice didn't make the lump in my throat any smaller. We'd barely taken our seats when Lauren blurted, "Okay, can I tell her now?" My parents both nodded, eyes locked on her. "Tell me what I asked, not really expecting much." "They bought me a house," she said, eyes wide with excitement. I thought I'd misheard her. "A house? A gorgeous 4-bedroom in Westfield," she said, reaching for her phone. "It's in the nicest neighborhood, and we got such a deal. The sellers were moving overseas, so Mom and Dad made a cash offer right away." My dad nodded. $750,000, a great investment in this market. I sat back slowly in my chair. My chest felt tight. Lauren kept talking, flipping through photos on her phone and pushing it toward me. My mom leaned in close, pointing out features like she'd picked the place for herself. "Look at the kitchen Viking appliances. The backyard has a pool. And the master suite. It's huge." I nodded along, not really seeing the photos. "I'm thinking of redoing the bathrooms," Lauren added, taking a sip of wine. "They're a little outdated." "Sounds great," I heard myself say. No one asked me about my day. No one asked how school was going or if I was okay with the budget cuts coming. The conversation was all about furniture renovations, a housewarming party. It was as if I wasn't even there. At one point, I glanced toward the front door, the gift bag I brought still sitting where I left it. Not a word had been said about it. When there was a pause in the conversation, I quietly stood and said, "Excuse me." In the hallway bathroom, I turned on the faucet and leaned over the sink. The mirror was harsh. My face looked pale, older somehow. I stood there for a while trying to breathe. Then I remembered the ticket, the lottery ticket I'd tucked into that gift bag as a kind gesture. Something to share, a way to maybe feel included. Now it felt ridiculous. I stepped out of the bathroom, walked to the entryway, and reached into the bag. I slid the ticket from the envelope and slipped it into my pocket. The chocolates stayed behind. Back at the table, no one had noticed I was gone. Lauren was talking about paint colors. My mom was nodding. My dad was already back on his phone. "I should go," I said, interrupting. All three looked up. "But we haven't had dessert," my mom said, startled. "I made tiramisu." "I'm not feeling great," I said, picking up my purse, "and I've got an early day tomorrow." "Oh, that's too bad," my dad said already, half distracted. "Don't forget your gift," I added, nodding toward the entry table. My mom blinked. "What gift?" "Just some chocolates. For you and Dad." "How sweet," she said flatly. "Feel better, honey." No one walked me to the door. I backed out of the driveway slowly. Through the window I could see them at the table, laughing, talking, wine glasses raised. They didn't even notice I was gone. The ticket was still in my pocket. It was just a piece of paper worth almost nothing, but for some reason it felt heavier now. The drive home was a blur, streetlights, traffic, a few missed turns. When I pulled into my apartment complex, I sat for a while, engine off, lights out. My cheeks were wet. I hadn't even realized I was crying. Inside, everything was quiet, the kind of quiet that doesn't comfort. No decorations, no cake, no messages on the answering machine. I sat on the couch, shoes still on, and stared at the wall. I didn't feel 33. I felt small, like the girl who used to wait for someone to notice her report card on the fridge, the girl who watched her sister blow out candles on custom cakes while she got one wrapped present from the clearance bin. That night, my phone buzzed once. It was my best friend Taylor. How was the dinner? Did they remember this year? I stared at the message. They bought Lauren a house. Didn't say a word about my birthday. 3 dots. Then I'm calling you right now. When I picked up, Taylor didn't ask questions. She just listened while I sat in the dark and told her what happened. After we hung up, I tried to sleep, but my mind wouldn't stop. Not about the house or the birthday. About everything before that. The patterns, the quiet, the way it had always been. The next morning I called in sick. I couldn't face my students, not with this heaviness sitting on my chest. I spent the day on the couch, didn't check the mail, didn't answer my phone. Later that week, my mom texted, "Hope you're feeling better. Lauren's meeting with contractors tomorrow about the bathroom renovation." Still nothing about my birthday, not even an afterthought. I didn't write back. I didn't know it then, but that silence, mine, not theirs, was the beginning of something I hadn't known I needed. And the ticket, I'd nearly forgotten it completely. Until one evening 3 weeks later, when I found it again, tucked deep in my purse. And that's when everything started to change. I found the ticket while cleaning out my purse. It had slipped into a narrow side pocket, folded behind an old receipt and a grocery list. I paused, holding it between my fingers, not quite sure what to do with it. For a second, I just stared at it, then set it on the counter next to my unopened mail. The rest of the afternoon moved slowly. I heated up a frozen dinner, stood by the microwave, and watched the seconds count down. The ticket was still sitting there. I wasn't expecting anything. I never did. It had just been a nice idea, something to give with a smile. When the timer beeped, I pulled my dinner out and sat at the kitchen counter. I opened my laptop, meaning to check emails, maybe browse for lesson plans. Instead, I typed in the lottery website. The screen loaded slowly. There was a spinning icon in the middle of the page. I almost closed it. The numbers came up, 6 of them. I picked up the ticket and read through the first line. One number matched, then another and another. My hand froze as I read the rest. All 6 numbers. In order. I checked again. I looked at the draw date, then the date on my ticket. Still matched. My heart was pounding. I opened a second tab and typed them in manually using the official verification page. It took a moment. Then the message popped up. This ticket appears to be a jackpot winner. Please contact your state lottery office. I sat down hard in the chair. The microwave light was still on behind me, humming. I couldn't breathe right. I reached for my phone. Taylor answered on the 3rd ring. "Sarah. Everything okay? I need you to come over," I said, "right now. What's wrong? Are you hurt?" "No. Just please come. I can't explain it over the phone." She didn't hesitate. "I'll be there in 15. While I waited, I paced the living room. I didn't know where to put the ticket. It felt too exposed on the table, too risky in my purse. I folded it and set it inside a hardback book, then changed my mind and moved it again. When the knock came at the door, I nearly jumped. Taylor stepped inside looking serious. "What's going on?" I handed her the ticket without a word and pointed to the open laptop on the counter. She walked over and checked. 1 number, then 2, then all 6. She looked up, her eyes wide. "Sarah, this is the winning ticket. 14.5 million, I said quietly. She didn't say anything at first. Then she hugged me, hard. I felt the tears start to rise. This was the ticket I said, pulling back, the one I was going to give them. She just stared at me. If I hadn't taken it back. We stood there for a while, neither of us speaking. That night we stayed up late reading everything we could about what to do next. I signed the back of the ticket and locked it in the drawer of my desk. Taylor made a list of lawyers and financial advisors. We wrote down questions. We looked up the state office address. "Don't tell anyone yet," she said. "Not even your coworkers. This kind of money changes everything." The next morning, I called in sick again. By noon, I was sitting at the lottery headquarters, the ticket folded neatly in an envelope. Taylor came with me. The building was plain rows of chairs, fluorescent lights, the kind of space that could just as easily be a DMV. A woman in a navy blazer called my name and led us to a back office. She asked for ID, made copies, and examined the ticket carefully. It took time. We signed forms. They explained the process, the taxes, the options. When it was done, they handed me a check, just ceremonial for pictures, and told me the real deposit would arrive within a few business days. Then they said they'd be issuing a press release. Name, city, and amount. I nodded. Taylor drove us home. I sat in the passenger seat with the envelope in my lap. That afternoon, I turned off my phone. By the next day, the news had spread. Old classmates, co-workers, people I hadn't heard from in years, my inbox was full. Messages from college friends I barely remembered. A cousin I hadn't seen since high school. People congratulating me. People asking for help. Taylor helped me screen everything. I met with an advisor the following week. He talked about investments and taxes and long-term planning. He told me to wait on big decisions. He told me not to rush. Then he paused and asked, "What about your family?" I didn't answer right away. He continued, "Money like this can bring out things that were already there. It doesn't change people. It just reveals them." I left with a stack of folders and a quiet understanding that my life had shifted for good. That evening I checked my phone. One message from my mother. "Are you free for Thanksgiving? Let me know soon so I can plan. Lauren's bringing her new boyfriend. No mention of the birthday, no mention of the weeks I hadn't called, just business as usual." I didn't respond. Another message came through a day later. This one from Lauren. "Hey, any chance you could help with the renovation? The bathroom's running over budget, about $10,000. I'll pay you back. Love you." I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I set the phone down face down on the table and left it there. I didn't need to say anything. Not yet. But soon I would. I didn't reply to Lauren's message. I didn't answer my parents' Thanksgiving text either. For the first time in my life, I let the silence speak for me. 3 days passed, then 4. Another message came in from my dad. Just one sentence. "Sarah, we need to talk. Call me." The tone was sharper than usual, more direct, but I didn't call. By the end of the week, my mother left a voicemail too. This time her voice was soft, almost careful. "Your behavior is concerning us. Whatever's bothering you, we should talk about it. As a family." Lauren's worried too. I stood in the kitchen and listened, leaning against the fridge. My hands stayed still. I didn't press redial. A few more days passed. I went to work, came home, ate dinner. I kept my head down, but the silence started to feel like something I needed to break, not for them, but for me. So I sent a message. "I'll come by Saturday at 2. I have something important to discuss." My mom's reply came back instantly. "Wonderful. Lauren will be here too. She's picking out light fixtures and wants your opinion." Saturday came with clear skies and a light wind. I pulled into their driveway right on time. The same house, the same trimmed hedges, the same car in the same spot. But something felt different. Inside, the 3 of them were gathered around the coffee table. Home decor catalogs were spread out across the cushions, filled with pendant lights, tile samples, and paint swatches. They looked up briefly when I stepped in. Finally, Lauren said, not moving from her spot, "Come look at these. I can't decide if frosted glass is too boring." My mom patted the seat beside her. "We were getting worried about you, honey. Where have you been? I didn't sit down. I stayed standing." "I have something to tell you. My dad didn't look up. "Can it wait 5 minutes? Lauren needs to place her lighting order today." "No," I said. "It can't wait." That got their attention. All three of them turned. My mom blinked. "What's going on?" I took a deep breath. 2 things. First, none of you remembered my birthday last month. My mom's hand went to her mouth. "Oh, we did forget, didn't we?" "I'm so sorry, sweetheart. It was just everything with Lauren's house." That's the second thing I said. I looked at each of them. "On my birthday, you announced that you bought Lauren a $750,000 house. You didn't say happy birthday. You didn't ask how I was. I had brought you a gift that night. You didn't need to do that," my dad said quickly. "Really, Sarah, It was a lottery ticket," I said. "Nothing serious, just a gesture. But while you were passing around photos of Lauren's pool, I realized you didn't see me at all. So I took the ticket back." They were quiet. Lauren narrowed her eyes slightly. "Okay. That ticket won," I said. "It hit the jackpot. $14.5 million. The room went completely still. My mom sat back. My dad's mouth opened, then closed again. Lauren's hand dropped the catalog she was holding. You won," my mom said. "Yes," I said. "The ticket I was going to give you. The one I slipped into that gift bag. The one I took back when it was clear you hadn't even remembered my birthday." My dad stood slowly. "Sarah, we had no idea." "I know," I said. "You never do." Lauren tried to smile. "That's incredible, though. I mean, wow, I'm so happy for you." "Are you?" I asked. Her smile wavered. My mom leaned forward. "Sarah, you've always been so responsible, so independent. We didn't think you needed anything from us." I nodded once. "Right." And Lauren did. "She's always been a little more in flux," my dad said. "She needed more help. So because I showed up because I worked and paid my own rent, that meant I didn't deserve the same care or attention." "No," my mom said quickly. "That's not what we meant, but it's what you did." I said, "For years." Lauren stood up. "Okay, can we not turn this into a fight? This should be a good thing. We should be celebrating." I took a step back. "No, Lauren, this doesn't change anything. This doesn't erase the years I spent being overlooked." My dad's voice was low. "What do you want from us?" "I don't want anything," I said. "I'm just done pretending this family dynamic is normal." My mom's eyes were wet now. "Please don't shut us out." I looked at the three of them, so familiar yet suddenly small. "I'm not shutting anyone out. I'm just choosing where to put my energy. From now on, I'm choosing me." I turned toward the door. "Wait," my dad said. "Can we talk about how to move forward?" "That depends," I said without turning back. "But don't call me about renovation budgets or holiday plans like nothing happened. If you want a relationship with me, it's going to have to be on new terms." I opened the door and stepped outside. The air was cool. I walked to my car without looking back. Inside the house, the catalogs were still open. The pendant lights still needed to be picked. But I wasn't part of that anymore. And for the first time, I didn't feel the need to be. 3 days after that conversation in my parents' living room, my name hit the papers. It started small, just a blurb in the local section. Then it showed up on the regional news, and by the end of the week, one of the national outlets picked it up with the headline, "New Jersey Teacher Wins $14.5 million lottery." By then, I'd already moved out of my apartment. I was staying under a different name at a quiet hotel on the edge of town. My mail was being forwarded. My phone number had changed. All of it was necessary. Because as soon as that article hit, the floodgates opened. Old classmates I hadn't seen in 15 years suddenly remembered my birthday. My freshman year roommate emailed me about a business venture. Someone I used to babysit for sent a long message about medical bills. My phone buzzed constantly. I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I focused on the meetings. There were attorneys now, investment advisors, accountants. Taylor sat in on most of it, with me taking notes and asking questions I hadn't thought of. One afternoon, after a particularly long appointment about trust structures and charitable planning, she looked across the table and said, "You need to think about stepping away from teaching, at least for now." "I'm not ready to stop," I told her. "I didn't say stop," she said, "but the press the attention it's going to follow you into the classroom." She wasn't wrong. The school district had already reached out with concerns about safety. Parents were curious. One child in the hallway had asked if I was rich now. I'd smiled and walked away, unsure of what to say. At home, if I could still call it that, I checked my messages less and less. Still, some came through. One afternoon, while going through my new inbox, I found a message from Lauren. It was longer than usual. "I know we've had our differences, but I'm really struggling with the bathroom remodel. The contractor found mold behind the walls, and it's going to cost another $20,000. Mom and Dad already helped with so much, I can't ask them for more. You're the only one I can turn to. Please don't let this ruin my dream home." I read it once, then again. She hadn't mentioned our last conversation. No follow-up to the things I'd said. No questions about how I was doing. Just the mold. Just the cost. I didn't answer. A few days later, another message came from my mom. "We never meant to make you feel less loved. You were always so capable, so independent. We're proud of you, lottery or no lottery. Please give us a chance to do better." It was careful, thoughtful even, but it still didn't address what I'd said in that living room. Then came a message from my father. We should discuss family financial planning. There are tax advantages to certain types of gifts and trusts. I've spoken to our accountant. That one I deleted without reading twice. The next week I met with my advisor to finalize a real estate purchase. It wasn't extravagant, just a 4-bedroom house with a small yard, good light, and quiet neighbors. I paid in full, no mortgage. I started putting together the paperwork for a foundation, something I'd daydreamed about for years, but never believed I'd be able to build. The mission was simple support kids who didn't get noticed in their own homes, who needed someone to show up for them. By the end of the month, I'd funded a scholarship for the students at Oak Ridge Elementary. Nothing flashy, just quiet, steady support. Each child in my classroom would have a path forward if they chose to take it. The district offered me a new role consulting, working on curriculum and student programs across multiple schools. I said yes. It wasn't just about leaving the classroom. It was about stepping into something wider. One night Taylor came over for dinner. We ate on the back patio while the sun went down. I got a call, she said, setting her glass down. "From who? Your mom." I waited. She wanted to know if you were being reasonable about family support. I didn't say anything. I told her Taylor continued that reasonable people don't forget their daughter's birthday while buying their other daughter a house. I nodded once. We finished eating in silence. That weekend, my parents showed up at my new address. I watched them through the security camera, standing at the front door looking out of place. They didn't ring twice. When I opened the door, my mother gave a tight smile. "Emma talked to one of your neighbors," she said. "That's how we found you. I didn't invite them in, but I stepped outside." "We've been worried," my dad added. "I'm fine," I said. "Better than fine, actually." "Can we talk?" my mom asked. "About what you said." I hesitated, then stepped aside and led them around to the back patio. We sat in the chairs facing the pool. I poured water, nothing more. "Lovely place," my mother said. "I paid for it outright," I said. "No mortgage." My dad shifted in his seat. My mom folded her hands. "We've done a lot of thinking since you came by. And you were right," she said, voice quiet. "We did favor Lauren. We did overlook you." "She always seemed to need more," my dad said. "It was easier to assume you were okay." "But I wasn't," I said. They both nodded. "We want to do better," my mom said. "We want to be better. I'm not ready for a full reunion," I told them. "I need space, time." "We understand," my dad said. They stood to leave, and just before walking out the gate, my father paused. "For what it's worth, I am sorry about your birthday. That was inexcusable." They walked out quietly after that. No hugs, no pressure. I sat on the patio for a long time. And when my phone buzzed again, another message from Lauren this time, about the hot tub, I didn't open it. Some things don't change. But I had. And that made all the difference. I didn't hear much from my parents after they left that day. A quiet few weeks passed, no texts, no emails, no unexpected visits. The messages from Lauren kept coming, though. The last one included photos of a half-tiled bathroom and a line about how the contractor now recommended a hot tub for resale value. I didn't respond. Most of my time went into the foundation. The legal work was dense, the planning detailed, but the further I moved into it, the more the pieces clicked into place. It felt right, like building something that had been waiting to exist. My work with the district expanded too. The program I'd helped pilot for students in underserved schools was now being introduced in 2 neighboring counties. Every few days, I'd get updates, test scores, rising, attendance improving kids asking to stay after school to work on projects. One of my former students, Zoe, sent a hand-drawn thank you note covered in glitter and crooked stars. Then one morning, just past the 1-year mark from the day I'd claimed the winning ticket, I got a message from my mom. "We'd like to have a special dinner for your birthday next month, just the 3 of us. Please say yes." There was no mention of Lauren, no mention of renovations or mold or budgets, just an invitation, a small thing maybe, but I said yes. That evening I sat outside watching the sun go down. The pool lights had just come on. The air was still. I hadn't told anyone about the dinner yet, not Taylor, not my financial team, not the district staff I worked with. It felt like something I needed to do quietly without anyone else's voice in my ear. The dinner was set for a Tuesday night. We met at a quiet restaurant a few towns over. No cameras, no announcements, just 3 people sitting down at a table near the window, cloth napkins folded neatly on our plates. My mother reached for my hand as soon as I sat down. "Thank you for coming." I nodded. For a few minutes we talked about neutral things, the Weather Road construction near their house, a book my mom had read. Then my dad set his fork down. "We know this doesn't fix everything," he said, "but we didn't want another birthday to go by like the last one." I looked at him. "We remembered this time," my mom said, without Lauren reminding us, without a calendar alert. The food came. We kept talking slowly, carefully. They didn't ask about my finances. They didn't bring up Lauren's house. My dad mentioned something about downsizing, and my mom talked briefly about volunteering at a food pantry. Nothing dramatic, no big apology. But there was a shift, a willingness to listen that hadn't been there before. When the bill came, I reached for it. My dad stopped me gently. "Lettuce," he said. "Please." I let him. After dinner, they walked me to my car. "We'd like to do this again," my mom said, her coat pulled tight around her shoulders. "I think we can," I said. She smiled. My dad nodded once. Then they turned to go. I sat in the car for a while before starting the engine. The sky was dark now. Streetlights flickered on. I watched them drive off in the same sedan they'd had since I was in college. When I got home, I poured a glass of water and set my phone on the counter. I didn't check for messages. I didn't check my email. I just stood in the kitchen, hands wrapped around the glass, letting the quiet settle. It didn't feel like everything had been healed, but it felt like something had shifted. A week later, I got a call from the district office. One of the new programs we'd piloted had doubled attendance in after-school tutoring. They were asking if I could come speak at the next board meeting. I said yes. That night after I hung up, I opened a drawer in my hallway. The ticket was still there, sealed in a plastic sleeve. I didn't take it out, just looked at it. It had done what it needed to do. And now it was just a piece of paper. A year had passed since the lottery win. The headlines were old news, and the people who once filled my inbox with urgent stories and subtle asks had mostly faded away. The foundation, though, that had only grown. We'd started with a handful of students at Oak Ridge Elementary. By summer, we'd expanded to 3 schools, then 5. The programs weren't just about money. They were built to support kids who needed a steady presence, mentorship, transportation, supplies, counseling. Things I used to wish for, without knowing what they were called. I spent my days in meetings and classrooms, not as a teacher anymore, but as someone building something bigger than a single lesson plan. I still visited Oak Ridge when I could. The kids there remembered me, especially the ones I'd taught. One morning, I walked in just as the 4th graders were lining up for recess. Zoe, wide-eyed and taller, now spotted me by the office door. "Miss Morgan, guess what I got into the science camp?" She beamed, her hands gripping the straps of her backpack. "That's incredible," I told her. "I'm so proud of you." She leaned in closer, whispering, "My mom says I'm going to be a scientist someday." "I believe her," I said. That afternoon, I returned to my office and finished reviewing 3 more grant proposals. The numbers blurred together, but the purpose never did. Back at home, things were quieter. Taylor came over often, sometimes for dinner, sometimes just to sit out on the patio with coffee and folded laundry between us. We didn't talk about the money much anymore. It had stopped being the centerpiece. It was a tool now, one I'd learned to use carefully. One night as we loaded dishes into the washer, she asked, "Any regrets I didn't answer right away?" She closed the door and pressed start. About the family, about how it all unfolded. "I don't regret standing up for myself," I said, "or setting boundaries." She nodded. "They're trying in their way." "They are," I said. "But some things don't go back the way they were." Lauren had gone quiet after the hot tub. After I stopped replying, she shifted from requests to complaints, then to silence. I'd heard through my parents that the mold had been dealt with, and the backyard patio had been upgraded for stress relief. They didn't bring her up during our monthly lunches anymore, and I didn't ask. My parents and I had found a rhythm cordial, predictable. We met at the same cafe once a month, exchanged small updates, avoided heavy topics. They no longer asked for anything. I no longer offered. It wasn't warm, but it was manageable. The texts from Lauren had stopped altogether by the time summer ended. I had her number blocked except in case of emergencies. A part of me expected her to try something else, but she didn't. Instead, I focused on the students, on the programs, on what I could build from where I stood now. Near the end of the school year, the district hosted a recognition dinner for contributors. They gave me a plaque I hadn't asked for, and I gave a short speech I hadn't planned. Afterward, a principal from a school I'd never visited came up to me in the hallway. "We had 2 students stay enrolled this year because of your support," she said. "Their families were ready to pull them out, but the tutoring program made the difference." I shook her hand. "I just want them to have options," I said. Back at home, I found a card in my mailbox. No return address, just my name and handwriting I recognized right away. It was from my mom. Inside was a note, short and simple. "We're proud of you, not because of the money, but because of how you've used it. Love, Mom and Dad." There was no ask, no hint of guilt or expectation. I set the card on the table and went to change into comfortable clothes. Dinner was already prepped. Taylor was bringing dessert. That evening, we sat under the patio lights and watched the breeze move through the trees. The pool lights cast ripples against the fence. We didn't talk about Lauren or the foundation or the balance sheets. We just sat. "I don't think you realize how many lives you've changed," she said eventually. I shook my head. I just wanted to stop feeling invisible. She looked at me. "You're not." Later that night, I opened a new file on my laptop. The title was simple, Year 2 Plan. I didn't know what would come next. But for the first time in a long time, I wasn't afraid to find out. Spring settled in early that year. The trees around my neighborhood were full of soft green, and the air had that gentle kind of warmth that makes you want to leave the windows open a little longer in the evening. I'd just gotten back from visiting one of the new schools we were partnering with, smaller district, tight budget, but full of heart. I stood in my kitchen unpacking a tote bag filled with art supplies I'd picked up on the way home. It was quiet, peaceful, and for once, that silence didn't feel like something I had to fill. My phone buzzed once on the counter. A text from my mom. "Would love to take you to lunch this weekend. Just us. No pressure, no strings, just a question." I replied simply, "Sounds good. Saturday works." We weren't the family I used to wish for, but we'd built something better than pretending. There were boundaries now, clarity. We kept things honest. I didn't expect apologies for the past anymore, and they didn't pretend nothing had happened. We met in the middle where we could. As for Lauren, the last update I heard came through my dad. Something about her looking into another design course. I didn't ask for details. He didn't offer them. She hadn't reached out since the final message about the hot tub. Maybe she never would again. Or maybe she would one day with a new reason. I had already made peace with either possibility. What mattered now wasn't who showed up for me. It was how I'd learned to show up for myself. I still kept the lottery ticket sealed in a plastic sleeve tucked in the back of my filing cabinet. Not because I needed a reminder of the money, but because it marked the moment I stopped waiting for permission to live my life on my own terms. The real gift wasn't the money. It was the clarity that came with it. I stopped trying to earn a place in rooms where I was only ever half seen. I stopped shrinking myself to fit into roles that were never built for me. And once I did, I found purpose I'd never had the space to chase before. That's the kind of wealth that lasts. On the anniversary of the Foundation's launch, Taylor threw a small dinner at my place. Just close friends, simple food, soft music, a cake with uneven handwriting that read, "Here's to Year 2." After the guests left, we stood at the sink washing dishes together, sleeves rolled up, the kind of comfortable quiet that only comes with old friendship. "You did it," she said, drying a plate. "You really changed your life." "I think I just finally claimed it," I said. "It was always mine to begin with. I just didn't know I could walk away." She didn't say anything back, just smiled and handed me the next plate. And maybe that's the real lesson. Sometimes the turning point isn't loud or dramatic. It's a quiet moment of recognition, the kind where you finally stop asking others to see your worth and decide to live as if you already know it. And once you do, no one gets to take that from you. So if any part of my story reminded you of your own, if you've ever been overlooked or quietly carried more than anyone realized, I hope you know this. You are allowed to start again. You are allowed to stop explaining, and you are allowed to be seen. Thank you for listening. If this story meant something to you, I hope you'll share it or leave a comment with your own. I'd love to hear it. And if you'd like to hear more stories like this one, you're always welcome to subscribe. We'll be here.